Hello everyone! This is Paukshte Fashion Workshop. I remind you that we post new videos every day. Today we continue working with a dress made on the basis of the pattern for garments with the drop shoulders. This is the last video about this dress. Let's have a look at the armholes. How did we stitch the side seams? We edged the armholes with the bias binding, then we stitched the side seams the way we usually do. The both edges of the bias binding were stitched in the side seam. There is nothing complicated in this technique. Edge the armholes with the bias binding and then stitch the side seams the way you usually do. I don't know why, but these details seemed complicated to some people. As I've already said, you should edge the armholes before stitching the side seams. This is how the dress looks like from the right side. Have a close look at the waistband. I remind you that there are the pin tacks both on the front and on the back. If you don't want to make the pin tacks, you can make a gathered skirt instead. I love the way they look like. This is how the waistband looks like from the wrong side. We've covered the seams with the second layer. I remind you that the second layer wasn't doubled with the interfacing material. Notice that the second layer of the waistband is stitched not to the very edge. I'll cut these threads. This part will be covered with the facing. This is what I'm going to show you today. I'm also going to show you how to insert the collar. This is how the facing looks like now. I remind you that we've stitched the facing details together. There are the shoulder seams in the facing detail. It's very convenient to work when all the details are prepared in advance. Have a look here. One of the bow details is pinned to the very edge of the wrap over, and the second one is already inserted in the side seam. We did it when we were stitching the side seam. This is why it is so important for the bow to be of the same width as the waistband. If you make it wider, it won't look good. Next, we need to insert the collar in the dress and stitch the facing. First, we need to pin the center back of the collar to the center back of the dress. Pin the details first, and then check if they are even. Is everything okay? Perfect. Natalie is going to tack the collar. We need to do it in order to be able to attach the facing accurately. In the previous video, we showed you how to double the facing with the interfacing material and how to edge it with an overlocker. It should be pinned to the dress accurately. Pin the center back first, and then the shoulder seams. The angle in the facing should be pinned to the waistline. Natalie pinned the angle. I remind you that it marks the waistline. This is the facing for the back neckline. Make sure that the shoulder seams in the facing and the dress match. The center back should also match in the details. Be very accurate and attentive when pinning the facing. I remind you that we are pinning the facing to the main fabric. We've pinned the facing to the dress. The collar is pinned in between them. They will be stitched together with just one seam. I want you to have a look at the bottom of the facing. There are a lot of different ways for edging the bottom of the garments. We could cut a white facing and stitch it here. In this case, the bottom would be strong and beautiful. This is the best thing to do. We are not going to do it now. We're going to overcast the bottom for about 1 centimeter. I remind you that we are making a mock-up. The facing can't be overcast. In order for it to be at the same length as the bottom of the dress, we need to make sure that these details are flat, and then draw a line here, 1 centimeter up from the bottom. We're trying to show you the most simple techniques. Natalie is stitching the facing at the bottom of the wrap-over. We're stitching the facing for the wrap-over. I remind you that this angle is placed on the waistline. When you reach this point, turn the detail. Learn to stitch the details without tacking them. It takes some time not only to tack the details, but also to remove the tacking. We've reached the collar. Continue stitching as if there is just one detail instead of two. The width of the seam is 7 millimeters. Be very attentive when stitching the shoulder seams. We've almost reached the center back. That means that the first half of the facing is already stitched. We'll stitch the second half off the camera. Do not forget to cut the extra pieces from the seams when you finish stitching. Do not forget about the shoulder seams. Next, we need to top stitch the seam. It should be stitched close to the facing. We're top stitching the seam in order to make it stronger. Don't try to get right in the angle. It's impossible. Start stitching as close to the angle as you can. The width of the seam is 1 millimeter. The seam should be top stitched this way from the beginning to the end. Stop stitching about 1.5 centimeters away from the angle. You won't be able to get any closer to it. Next, we need to turn the angles right side out and then go to the ironing desk. Do the same thing with the second angle. Notice that Natalie is ironing the seam without taking it. You can take it if you need to. It's not hard to iron the seam if it's top stitched. When Natalie finishes ironing, she'll make the bar tacks. Natalie, show us the way the waistband looks like from the right side, please. We can continue ironing the facing for the wrap over. I remind you that we top stitched the seam. Due to this fact, it's very easy to iron the facing. The second side will be ironed the same way. Next, we need to make a couple of bar tacks. We're going to show you how to do it. When the second side is ready, we'll move on to taking the bottom. I remind you that the second layer of the waistband was stitched not to the very edge of the wrap over. We need to make a couple of bar tacks on the facing. Natalie is making the first bar tack on the waistband. Make sure that you don't pierce the fabric through. Natalie says that this detail is not wide, so she can sew it by hands. One more butt tack should be made on the center back. We're making the bar tacks for the facing not to turn to the right side. Next, we need to make a couple of bar tacks on the other side, on the shoulder seam, on the waistband. The bar tacks are ready. This is how the facing looks like now. We made the bar tacks on the waist, on the shoulder seams, and on the center back. Make sure that you don't piece the fabric through when making the bar tacks. The only thing left for us to do is to tack the dress bottom. The width of the overcast should be 1 centimeter. You can make a wider overcast, or you can edge the bottom with the facing. We decided to use the most simple way for edging the bottom. Natalie is going to tack the bottom this way circle-wise. When she finishes tacking, we'll stitch the bottom from one facing to the other. I'm wearing the finished dress. Natalie has already stitched the overcast at the bottom. It's 1 centimeter wide. You can make it as wide as you want. Have a look at the bow. There is a tiny button on the wrong side of the wrap over. It was attached for the wrap over to be stronger when I'm wearing the dress. The dress is very comfortable. The armholes fit me perfectly. We showed you the making of this dress very thoroughly. I remind you that it was made of the pattern for the garment with the drop shoulders. I wanted to understand that I show you the most simple techniques. Some of my video courses will be available very soon. In the video courses, I show you more complicated techniques, the ones which allow us sewing the high-quality garments. In the everyday videos, I show you the most simple techniques, like the one for sewing the collar and the facing with just one seam. Such techniques are perfect for sewing simple garments. I'm sure that many of you will make such dresses for yourselves. Have a look at the way the dress fits me. I remind you that my waist measurement is 100 centimeters. The dress makes me look much slimmer than I really am. The wrap over is pretty wide, so I can move in this dress without any problems. I'm glad that I had the chance to show it to you. That's all for today. We are Paukshte Irina and Natalie. Subscribe to my channel, write comments, share videos, press the like and the bell buttons. Remember that practice makes perfect. I would really appreciate your support. Thank you. Goodbye.